I am going to vote for this bill, but I think it is critically important that we as a body be honest to our constituents about what this bill does, and perhaps more importantly, what the bill does not do. And let's go back to the basics for just a second. Never-ending property taxes are unethical, they're immoral, they should be thrown on the dust heap of history in the state of Texas. They are inconsistent with private property rights, and they prevent any Texan from ever truly owning their home in this state. You may call yourself a homeowner in the state of Texas, but the reality is you are just a renter and the government is your landlord. And if you don't believe me, try not paying your property tax bill at the end of the year and you will find out real fast who really owns your home in this state. Texans are being taxed out of their homes, and if there was only one thing that they demanded that we do this session, it was deal with property taxes and debate and pass bills to eliminate property taxes in Texas. And even if not full elimination, to at least fight for real property tax cuts right now and for everybody. And if we can't even do that, we should at least stop the property tax increases. The bills today unequivocally do not measure up to those expectations. We are failing at a time when it would have been, ironically, the easiest for us to succeed. We started this session with a $24 billion surplus, but instead of using that to put us on a path to eliminate property taxes, we lit it on fire to fund every liberal pet project imaginable.
Mr. Speaker, gentlemen, you have a question?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
As for the good in this bill, and I want to speak to that, this bill may help some homeowners with their property tax bill. Maybe, and only some. But unfortunately, it is entirely conceivable that many or most homeowners and property owners will not see any real savings at all because the appraisals are likely to increase and eat up this new exemption. And even if the appraisals don't go up by the full amount of the exemption, the legislature is still authorizing political subdivisions to increase property tax rates. And that's where things do get bad for this bill. Because by only increasing exemptions, it actually puts inflationary pressure on property tax rates. And we should be doing everything we can as a body to get the property tax rates as close to zero as is possible. And worse, we're putting inflationary pressure on tax rates by picking winners and losers. And while it may help some homeowners, it will almost certainly harm small business owners, entrepreneurs, brick and mortar stores, which will force them to increase their prices, and renters. Members, all Texans deserve tax relief. And one myth about property taxes that needs to be put to bed, and that's that the state of Texas does not levy property taxes. Austin politicians want to absolve themselves of blame by pointing the finger at local governments. And yes, the local governments absolutely share in some of the blame here. But it is factually not true to say that the state of Texas is not responsible for property tax increases. I apparently have to continuously remind this body that local governments are political subdivisions of what? They're political subdivisions of the state. So when local governments raise property taxes, it is the state of Texas that is raising those property taxes. And ultimately, when property taxes go up, the real people responsible for that property tax, those property tax increases, are those of us in this room here today. Here's another myth that I really love hearing. All property tax increases are voter approved. This is an absolute lie. The vast majority of property tax increases happen without voter approval, and why is that? That is because this body explicitly allows it. And unfortunately, this bill does not change that. I've been pushing a bill for years to make all property tax increases illegal unless they were approved by voters in an election. Ladies and gentlemen, that would be the lowest of all possible low-hanging fruit. And yet this body continues to refuse to do that, unfortunately, including even in this bill. So in closing, I'm going to vote for this bill, but not because it is a great bill that really fixes property taxes in Texas, but because it appears that this is the best that we are going to get this session. And that is just a pathetic and sad indictment of this body over the past 5 months. By failing to deal with property taxes head on with the seriousness that issue deserves, we continue to fail the hardworking and overtaxed men and women of the great state of Texas. Guys, Texas has a reputation for leading in freedom and liberty and small government and low taxes, but the reality is that Texas has one of the highest property tax burdens in America, and we have just been coasting on our small government reputation. It is past time we start living up to it.
For questions.
Texans deserve better.
Will the gentleman yield?
I will happily
The
yield
gentleman
for
yields.
any and all
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
questions.
Representative Harrison, are you done making your video?
Are you here to help me highlight for 30 million Texans the abject failure of this body to rein in their out-of-control property taxes that are taxing Texans out of their home on a daily basis?
Let's talk about that.
That's what I would like. I would like to talk about property taxes.
Let's talk about that. So
Let's talk about it.
you talk a big game about wanting to cut taxes and cut spending. That happens to be the department that I'm in Ways and Means.
You mean the
What
committee?
what bill did you file in Ways and Means to take up this rhetoric that you're spewing from the front mic?
I filed no less than 5 property tax bills, and I can't help where the leadership of this body sends or refers those bills, or who in leadership made the decision to kill all
Did
of
you
them.
ask for hearings? I never saw you in a hearing.
Every single one of them. And in fact,
Members, please confine your remarks to the subject
every
of the
single
bill.
one of them. And in fact, 2 of them were designated as emergency items months ago. My bill that would have made all property tax increases illegal unless they were approved
Members,
by
please
voters in an election.
confine your remarks to the subject of the bill.
And so you recognize that a lot of this work is cutting taxes. You say that some people will benefit from this. We're talking about tax homestead exemptions that will exceed the value of people's homes. They'll pay no taxes. You're aware of that, aren't you?
And I think you must be unaware of the comments that I just made that you're asking questions me about, because I said I plan to vote for the bill.
Oh, you said
But
that.
no, I said that 2 times in my remarks, and here's the reality. Just because the bill does some good, and it does do some good, as I clearly laid out in my remarks, my broader point is that this is nowhere near sufficient to tackle the crushing burden of property taxes in the state of Texas.
Right, and maybe if you can put a bill on the floor, we can talk about that. But
I
we
have put at least
we
5
have
bills to do that in the
SB4.
process, but the leadership of this body has refused to let a single one of my bills to end property taxes get to the floor of this body.
Members, confine your remarks to the subject of the bill.
Mr. Speaker, I think you just mean member, not members. I'm trying to keep my remarks to the subject of this bill.
You
I
are
can't
the person
control
that has
the
raised
responses.
every one of my 5 property tax bills. I have not brought a single one of them up. You brought every one of them up.
And so
every one of them.
you're voting for this bill.
I have said that
You're
at
happy
least
with this
3
tax
times
cut?
now. No,
Well, then you should vote no.
that's not true. I am going to take the small little bitty gain that this bill may represent. And if you had heard any of my remarks, you would have understood that. But simply because there are a handful of homeowners that might benefit from this bill, that does not mean that this bill is sufficiently satisfactory to tackle the biggest issue that we've got,
And
that
that's
our
where
constituents are facing.
That's where we disagree. I don't think it's just a handful of tax owners. Do you?
I know that it is, because we've got 30 million Texans. We're talking about a $40,000 increase in the exemption. I know that political subdivisions all across the state are going to increase the appraisals by $40,000 or more, and I know that this body allows, even with those increased appraisals, to raise the effective tax rate by 2.5% to 3.5%.
And I don't
so
wanna-
I know for a fact that many Texans will see their property tax bills increase
Right,
at
and
the
I
end of
don't
this
want
session.
to. I don't want to insult your intelligence. I know you read this bill. This is not an appraisal bill. You know that, right?
I'm very well aware
Okay,
of
you're
that.
aware of that, and you know that you've been admonished 3 times to talk about this bill. This is a tax
You
cut
were
bill.
admonished for raising bills that were not before the body.
And so I'm not here to talk about appraisals. I'm not here to talk about
You're the one talking about
local
appraisals
spend.
and asking me questions about appraisals, aren't
I'm
you?
here to talk about the handful of people you think will benefit from this tax cut.
I explained them in
And I
my
will submit
remarks.
to you
A handful of homesteaders may realize a small benefit. I have said that at least 4 times now. Are you having trouble hearing me, Representative?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, listen, I think what you do is undermine this process, how hard people work. It is not hard to come up with a number. It's hard to pay for a number. It's easy to make speeches. And this benefit in the area where I come from, maybe I don't live in the upscale neighborhoods of your district. The district that I represent that sends me up here.
I don't think you are familiar with very familiar with Ellis County, Representative.
Well, I will tell you, for many families in Bexar County, where I come from, they will benefit significantly from this homestead exemption, and the bill to follow will add even more for the older Texans that are here.
And I wish you shared the enthusiasm you do for the small number of Texans that this bill might possibly help, and channel that enthusiasm into helping every one of the 30 million Texans who are having their lives ravaged by out-of-control property taxes in the state of Texas.
Gentleman's time has expired.